Sally Thorner, Toby is ill tonight. Police still don't know why. Why a Douglas High School student working at a gas station attendant was gunned down by hold-up men who had already gotten the money they wanted. Lynn Alexander says police are putting together composite sketches of the suspects to help solve the mystery and find the killers of Lawrence Knox.
19-year-old Lawrence Earl Knox was a senior at Douglas High School. He lived in a group home on Park Avenue and worked after school at the Crown gas station on North Charles Street. Knox's teachers say he always stood up to adversity. Last night, he and another employee, Bobby Jackson, were confronted by robbers as they counted out the day's receipts. They were inside the station's glass-enclosed security booth when two men walked in. The door had been left unlocked.
One of them pulled out a handgun and put that to the victim, Mr. Knox's head, demanded money.
Knox turned over an undisclosed amount of cash to the robbers.
As the suspects backed out the door for no reason that we can ascertain, the suspect, who was armed, fired twice at Mr. Knox. One of the bullets striking him in the arm, the other striking him in the back that exited from his chest.
He was pronounced dead at Union Memorial Hospital. The other employee, Bobby Jackson, was not hurt.
I have no idea.
Crown Petroleum has been in the forefront of efforts to increase security measures at area stations ever since an attendant at one of their gas stations in Maryland was killed during a holdup several years ago. And the company even increased those security measures after an attendant at a Citgo gas station was killed last year. Police report robberies have decreased at gas stations where employees work within security booths. In this case, police are looking for two black males. The first, in his 20s, about 5'5", 132 pounds, has a thick mustache. Last night, he was wearing a brown wet-look jacket and a blue hooded sweatshirt and jeans. Little is known about his accomplice, except he, too, was wearing a blue hooded sweatshirt. Anyone with information is asked to call the homicide unit at 396-2721. Lynn Alexander, News Scene 2.
Crown Petroleum is offering a $2,500 reward for information leading to the arrest and conviction of Lawrence Knox's killer. Police have released a composite sketch of a suspect wanted in connection with Sunday's shooting death of a Crown gas station attendant. A $2,500 reward is being offered for information leading to the arrest and conviction of this man. 19-year-old Lawrence Earl Knox had turned over $50 to the robbers before one of them shot and killed him. A police officer investigating the Crown gas station murder happened on another crime in Baltimore this morning. Two men were shot outside a fast food restaurant at North and Charles. One of the wounded, 26-year-old Marvin Freeland, was treated and released. 30-year-old Gerald Washington is in good condition at Johns Hopkins Hospital. Police are looking for a man in his 20s seen running from the incident. The gunman who held city police at bay for several hours last night is being held for psychiatric evaluation. Robert Blunberger is under observation at Johns Hopkins Hospital. Blunberger had barricaded himself in his East Chase Street house, occasionally coming out and waving his gun. No shots were fired, and after talking with police and relatives, Blunberger surrendered. A 17-year-old woman has been charged in connection with abandoning her newborn and placing her in a sewer. The teenager is charged with assault with intent to murder and child abuse. The baby girl, who was less than 2 hours old, was rescued 10 days ago by a passerby. Baltimore County is a safer place to live than it was a year ago. That's according to police. Total reported crime dropped 11.8% in the first 9 months of 1983. Serious crime declined 13%. Police credit new anti-crime programs, stricter enforcement. City police at bay for several hours last night is being held for psychiatric evaluation. Robert Blunberger is under observation at Johns Hopkins Hospital. Blunberger had barricaded himself in his East Chase Street house, occasionally coming out and waving his gun. No shots were fired, and after talking with police and relatives, Blunberger surrendered. A 17-year-old woman has been charged in connection with abandoning her newborn and placing her in a sewer. The teenager is charged with assault with intent to murder and child abuse. The baby girl, who was less than 2 hours old, was rescued 10 days ago by a passerby. Baltimore County is a safer place to live than it was a year ago. That's according to police. Total reported crime dropped 11.8% in the first 9 months of 1983. Serious crime declined 13%. Police credit new anti-crime programs, stricter enforcement, longer jail terms, and tougher parole policies for the improvement. Halloween was a little less
Abandoned cars, they're more than just an eyesore for city dwellers. They also pose a safety hazard, especially for children. Kevin Brown reports that city police have now teamed with private towing companies to clean up the streets.
Abandoned cars often become health hazards. Rats move into the upholstery. People throw garbage into them. From her dining room window, Joan Gandhi can see cars frequently abandoned in a lot behind her home.
During the summer, we have the children running in and out of the cars, and there's a lot of cars over there. And what we were trying to do for the last 3 years were to try to have a playground back there so the children would have something, you know, to do besides run in and out the car.
The abandoned cars also become eyesores because vandals have a field day.
Nobody thinks anybody cares about the car, so anything that can be done to it can be done to it. It becomes vandalized. They start stealing the tires. They start painting on it. You name it and they'll do it.
2 months ago, city police joined the fight using private towing companies in addition to the city trucks. At 7:30 this morning, for example, 6 tow trucks were called to this one block in southwest Baltimore. In the last 2 months, the city's brought in almost twice the number of abandoned vehicles that it used to. But they expect the problems to get worse in March. While many people stand in line to get their license tags, many other people will be abandoning their cars.
The vehicle is in such condition that he don't want to repair it anymore, so he's not going to buy new tags for it.
But vehicles are abandoned all year round and all over the city. One city official said it's like picking up litter. You collect some today, but you'll find more tomorrow. Kevin Brown, Scene 2, East Baltimore.
Rick?
Escapees from the Montrose School for Delinquent Children. It's not a new problem, but it's one that has school officials looking for answers tonight, especially since 18 youngsters have walked away from the school since last Thursday. A new member of the Channel 2 News staff, Tim Tootin, reports tonight that school officials admit it's a nagging problem only time and money will solve.
Almost half the teenagers who walked away from Montrose School this week have been either caught or have returned on their own. Some students who have left here and since returned believe they know why the trend has continued. One student who didn't want to be identified talked about the problem.
I ain't feel like I wanted to stay here and didn't feel like being locked up. And it was summertime and stuff like that. And I just took off. I got caught and stuff like that. But then I found out you do the program, do what you're supposed to do, you get out here faster.
Montrose school officials say it's almost impossible to keep students confined, but believe new state-mandated programs like more staff supervision and psychological help will stop walkaways in their tracks.
Now, in another 6 to 8 months, I can tell you, if this type of thing keeps up, if we can't get it under control, which I think we will, if history is any indicator, I don't anticipate that this number are going to go. Now, are we always going to have AWOLs? Definitely.
Some residents living near the school aren't worried about the rash of escapes. Debbie Zahn just moved here from West Virginia.
We've been told that when the kids leave Montrose that they're just mainly trying to get back home, go back into Baltimore City, and we haven't been too worried about it.
Montrose School has received almost $500,000 from the state to improve conditions here. There has already been a staff change, but even that may not be enough to solve the ongoing problem. In Baltimore County, Tim Tootin, Channel 2 News.
A state official overseeing proposed changes at Montrose says he's pleased with the initial progress. State lawmakers have already asked for a feasibility study to see if Montrose should stay open. A pleasure trip to Atlantic City ended in death for 2 people from Baltimore today. Police say 48-year-old Ray Bolander, the pilot, and 30-year-old Mary Ellen Behrens died when their single-engine plane crashed near the Bader Field Airport in Atlantic City. Another passenger who is also from Baltimore is in critical condition at the Atlantic City Medical Center. The 3 left Baltimore just before midnight. The National Transportation Safety Board is on the scene now trying to determine what happened. The airport's safety has been questioned before following a fatal crash in May. If your wife or husband was also married... Thanks, Ken.
Remember the tragic shooting in Woodlawn 2 months ago? Well, a woman who was 8 months pregnant was shot by an intruder and later died. Tonight in our follow-up file, we find police have made no arrests. Cassie Dowdy lived here with her husband in the Hunters Crossing complex. Around noon on June 20th, a suspicious man called her on the building's security phone to say her car had been hit. She thought it was strange and immediately called her husband, but when her husband got home, he found Mrs. Dowdy critically wounded. You may recall the baby was delivered and survived, but Mrs. Dowdy died a few days later. A Baltimore County police spokesman tells Channel 2 News police do have a few good leads and are actively pursuing the case. A Baltimore landmark went on the auction block today. The Chesapeake restaurant opened not for business, but for bids. Channel 2's Vicki Cox watched as eager buyers made their best offer for a piece of local history.
100,000 half, thank you. 100,000 head, 100 half, you bet.
Auction cards replaced menus at the Chesapeake restaurant today. It's the sign of a Baltimore institution that's fallen on hard times, its owner forced to file for bankruptcy.
Evidently, I make a hell of a hamburger, but I'm not do too well when it comes to financing real estate.
Are you all through bidding?
The restaurant and everything in it went cheap, despite the auctioneer's pleas for more money. This man bought it for $341,000. Baltimore attorney Robert Sapero let his partner do the talking on what's next for the Chesapeake of North Charles.
I think there are some important possibilities for it, anywhere from a restaurant to a bed and breakfast inn. There's ample parking here. There are a lot of pluses.
And a lot of memories surrounding the Chesapeake, which has been a part of the Friedman family since 1918.
And the room at the top of the steps, which was destroyed by fire in 1974, used to be called the Babe Ruth room and was full of memorabilia. Really? This room right in front of you. May we?
But there's not much left of the Babe Ruth room now, and the cost of remodeling proved too much to pay. So the Chesapeake, once a Baltimore landmark, is now just another piece of property that's been sold. But Phil Friedman can't forget a restaurant which became a part of Baltimore.
As late as a few months before we closed, a man brought his son in here on his 21st birthday for his first drink here because his father had brought him here for his first drink. These are the things you remember.
Sold.
On North Charles Street, Vicki Cox, Channel 2 News.
The Sachs-Mitchell team took to City Hall again today to again debate the man who runs City Hall. Candidate for governor Steve Sachs and running mate Perrin Mitchell today took opponent Mayor Schaefer to task for what they called the other Baltimore. They described the other Baltimore as the city with boarded-up homes and neglected schools, and they accused the mayor of trying to hide it behind a glitzy inner harbor.
The other Baltimore cannot be erased by any slick propaganda campaign. The other Baltimore cannot be erased by some meaningless slogan. It cannot be ignored. It should not be ignored, but Donald Schaefer has consistently ignored the other Baltimore. He makes out it doesn't even exist.
Today's City Hall appearance is the latest by Sachs and Mitchell to express displeasure with Mayor Schaefer's refusal to engage in a head-to-head debate.
Tonight we take you back to the streets of Baltimore at our continuing Maryland Votes coverage. The streets are where we find grassroots politics at work, the politics of the people. Channel 2 political analyst Frank DiFilippo joins us now with the second part of his special series focusing on the groups that turn the wheels of local government.
Sally, yesterday we saw how television made its mark on political organizations. Along with television came education, sophistication, and prosperity. Political bosses could no longer control votes with gifts and favors.
Here's that. Nice to see you. In good shape? Yes, sir. Okay, you see my running mates here? How are you?
Senator Joseph Bonvania is a political boss, or political leader as he prefers to be called. He is major domo of East Baltimore's Fighting First District, co-leader with Councilman Mimi DePietro of the Bonvania DePietro organization, direct descendant of the old D'Alessandro Huffabert and Stazak organizations.
I have 4,500 T-shirts.
4,500 T-shirts?
T-shirts.
And what do they say?
Oh, yeah? Re-elect.
There are other political organizations in Baltimore. The Gallagher, Coggins, and Curran organizations in northeast Baltimore, the Mount Royal Democratic Club in the Center City, the Metro Clubs of Ray Haysbert, the 4th District Democratic Club of Little Willie Adams, the Dolefield Democratic Club, the Crosstown Democratic Club, Pollock's Trenton Democratic Club, the Hampton Democratic Club of Bobby Burns, NDC 5, and the 5th District Reformed Democrats. City Council President Clarence Du Burns understands organization politics better than most. He is a product of organization politics, up through the ranks from precinct worker to perhaps the top job in the city, that of mayor.
You go back a few years, you find that the political organization was the social services of its day. You went to the political organization for your coal, a ton of coal, it cost $6, $7. You could get it from your political organization. And in politics, to the victor goes the spoils. If your people were in, you were able to get the political patronage. So you was assured of a job, things of that nature.
Burns is proud of his organization, the East Side Democratic Organization, proud of the size of the voter turnout every election day. It's the heaviest of any black organization in the city. Mark Wasserman is a veteran of City Hall and is now managing William Donald Schaefer's campaign for governor. Wasserman says organization is not a dirty word, but an important element in any campaign.
We welcome organization politics. It's one way to reach people very effectively.
Blair Lee Forth is Wasserman's rival. He's running Steve Sack's campaign for governor. He has little good to say about political organizations. That's ironic, because Lee grew up in organization politics.
The problem is when organization becomes a machine, when people are organized in a way that their votes are delivered mindlessly or in exchange for money. That's the tradition that we're against, and the tradition, thank God, that's dying out in this city.
Picking up the pieces. That's what 5 Baltimore families did today. A freak bus accident caused thousands of dollars in damage to their homes last night. Channel 2's Brenda Carl watched as homeowners checked the damage in light of day.
Anna Maykel came home today. Her house on North Monroe Street was one of 5 hit by an MTA bus after a collision last night. Police say the driver of a Chevette apparently ran the stop sign at Landvale, forcing the bus driver, Pamela Chapman, to slam on the brakes. The bus then slid on the rain-slicked roadway into 5 homes before stopping. The force of the crash cut off the water lines in Mrs. Maykel's house, so she had to spend the night with her son.
I saw this bus weaving with all my payment. I said, what's wrong? I said, he must be drunk. And I didn't know it was an accident. And when I came and opened the door, didn't need to say no more.
Her next-door neighbor was also tallying up the loss today.
The steps, 2 storm windows, and the storm door. That's good all I had.
Who's going to pay for that?
I don't know yet. I called the insurance company, Allstate. They said that probably whoever's involved, it will probably be the bus. They guess they don't know yet who will be responsible.
Neighbors complain about the intersection, saying it's dangerous for drivers.
They cannot see around that curve there, especially the small cars going out to there. They don't pay that stop sign that much attention. At least you can't see nowhere. I think there should be a light there.
Because of the rain last night, no one was outside, and police say that helped to reduce the number of injuries. The Chevette driver is facing charges in the accident. In West Baltimore, I'm Brenda Carl, Channel 2 News.
All the injured people, including the bus driver, are out of the hospital tonight.
Well, that's good news. Keep an eye. First, does Eddie want out? Eddie Murray, the power behind the Orioles' defense and a legend in Baltimore for the past 10 years, has reportedly asked to be traded. He's angry with criticism from fans and team management. Our Jack Dawson joins us now with more on this story. Jack?
Sally, we really don't know how serious the trade request was, but we're told it was an outgrowth of recent criticism of Murray's play, particularly by team owner Edward Bennett Williams at a team meeting last Thursday. Reports quoted Williams as saying, "Murray hasn't given us a good year. Look at his extra base hits and his fielding. It's really hurt us." The trade request is supposed to have been made at a Friday meeting with general manager Hank Peters. Murray was reported to be upset by the way his injuries have been handled this year. Injury is a new experience for Murray. His time on the disabled list this year was the first in his 10-year career. And those close to Murray say he has been further upset by negative comments he's been hearing about himself on the nightly sports talk shows. The Murray numbers are these. He's hitting 12 points higher than at this time last season, 303 compared to 291, but with 9 fewer home runs and 33 fewer RBIs, 60 this year compared to 93 in late August of 85. This season, of course, he was out of the starting lineup for 27 games with a hamstring and ankle injuries. This is not the first time Murray's been upset with his reception by the fans this year. A slow start brought out the critics in force, and Murray talked earlier this season to John Saunders about that crisis.
I was upset with a lot of things that were said and done around here, and we had a few other ball players that I thought were treated a little unfairly. I mean, the radio show after the ball game, I mean, you get people making comments and the next day you come out here and you got 50 or 60 people jumping on you for making an error, which is something that anyone that could play this game will do. And, you know, like I'm saying, it starts to jump on you, and you get a little tired of it. And, you know, people don't understand that we got ears, I mean, we got feelings, and we're out there trying as hard as we can every day.
Now another crisis has boiled into the headlines. Murray, of course, isn't commenting, but at the bus stop at the stadium, I did get a comment from the boss about this latest Murray problem.
Now, Eddie Murray doesn't have a quote in the paper. We all know that. Well, he has not. Well, that's all right, but he doesn't have a quote in the paper, which means he might not have said a word. Hank Peters does not have a quote in the paper. I don't know why you're missing that. Edward Bennett Williams does not have a quote in the paper, and as far as I'm concerned, I don't know a thing about it.
Okay,
So there.
Earl, yeah, but I have to ask you, Jack, bottom line, do you think Eddie's serious?
Well, you know, you go back to what Earl just said. You figured if Eddie was really serious and made a serious demand to be traded, that somewhere or other the manager would have gotten wind of that somewhere along the line. Ron Shapiro, who's Eddie's agent, as you know, did say that things are cooler today than they were last Friday. So maybe in haste, Eddie did say something.
Cooler, that's a very diplomatic word.
Yes, he expects them to talk it out before the week is out.
Next question, though. The Orioles still need very desperately to get back in the race. They're going on a very important road trip. You saw them off, too. How will this affect team morale?
Earl Weaver says not at all. He says they're just going to go and play and hopefully win a lot. But I think anything unsettling to a team that is struggling from as far back as this team is just wouldn't help at this stage.
Okay, Jack, we'll see you later in sports. Okay, so we want to know how you Oriole fans feel about a possible trade and if you think the team really mistreats Murray. Earlier today, we sent Joyce Jefferson to Waverly in search of answers.
I don't blame Eddie Murray. The treatment that he's received from management will lead anyone to want to leave. Here, this man has played for 10 straight years, never missing games because of injury. And the first time he has an injury, they want to get rid of him. They wouldn't have done this to Brooks Robinson.
And I feel like this year, really, he's batting around 300, and I think he's doing a job. And I think Eddie Murray, if he did make that comment, it was just like on a spur moment anger or something like that. But I think he really wants to stay in Baltimore.
We'll have more on Eddie and the Orioles.
Congress took on the Baltimore Sun today. Clarence Mitchell III staged a protest over what he called an unfair story. A story printed last week which says Mitchell is deep in debt with unpaid bills totaling over $100,000. Channel 2's Vicki Cox says Mitchell brought his complaints to the steps of the Sun building.
The state senator Clarence Mitchell claims he's the victim of one-sided reporting in a one-newspaper town. They're shouting Sun Paper's unfair and the Sun Paper's lie, but Clarence Mitchell has admitted the newspaper story is true. He also says everyone has debts and I'm trying to pay mine. As Sun Paper's employees watched, Mitchell and about 75 supporters accused the paper of playing politics with its news coverage, bringing up his debts to advance the campaign of Delegate Wendell Phillips, the Sun's choice for representative from the 7th District.
Why is the Sun so afraid of me? Even if every alleged debt mentioned in the article were still outstanding, the timing of the article, its location in the paper, the amount of space devoted, and the opinions expressed were journalistically unethical and grossly unfair.
And so I really think something should be done about the Sun Paper for doing this, because they are harder on him than they were on Levitt.
Clarence Mitchell says he's still the man to beat in the race for his Uncle Perrin's seat. And despite his admitted money problems, the state senator hopes loyal voters will keep that congressional seat in the Mitchell family. Downtown, Vicki Cox, Channel 2 News.
The Baltimore Sun had no comment on the Mitchell demonstration. Meanwhile, Representative Michael Barnes took his campaign to Johns Hopkins Hospital today. The Democratic candidate for Senate blasted frontrunner Congresswoman Barbara Mikulski, criticizing her stand on tobacco subsidies.
I think it's more than a little bit ironic and frankly outrageous that a member of the Health Subcommittee would be voting in favor of spending taxpayers' dollars subsidizing the tobacco industry, particularly when not one Maryland farmer benefits from that program.
Barnes also criticized Mikulski for failing to join him in an anti-smoking legislation.
Okay.
A 16-year-old Southern high school student is charged with setting the arson fire that shut down Cherry Hill Elementary School today. Channel 2's Joyce Jefferson reports the fire damage may have a lasting effect on Cherry Hill's students.
The suspected arsonist in this case is a minor, so authorities won't tell us who it is or why the Cherry Hill School fire was set. But the results of the fire will rob students who attend this school of some educational opportunities. The fire gutted a Head Start classroom. It was a room recently outfitted with brand new furniture. It also damaged a special ed room. But the losses here go beyond the rooms hit by the blaze. The principal here has his own theory about this arson. He believes it's a cover-up for a theft. When school dismissed yesterday, there was a reading computer sitting right here. This morning, it was missing. The stolen computer was the core of a teaching system to help Cherry Hill students develop reading skills. And the reading resource teacher believes the person who took it knew what he was taking.
Well, it's really a very sophisticated system. They had to know that you had to have the diskettes, the operating system diskettes. I kept several boxes in the drawer. The drawer was open and they were taken. Nothing else in the room was disturbed other than the other class vocabulary and comprehension tapes that go to the student computers. We have several student computers.
The dollar damage from the fire here is put at $200,000. But it's hard to put a dollar amount on the student's loss of a learning opportunity. Police have arrested a suspect, but as yet they've not recovered the missing computer. From Cherry Hill, I'm Joyce Jefferson for Channel 2 News.
Cherry Hill Elementary will reopen for students tomorrow. It was an electric cord under a rug that sparked a deadly blaze in East Baltimore. One person was killed, a second critically injured when fire ripped through their row home in the 5000 block of Erdman Avenue. 85-year-old Jenny Robusto died in the fire. 57-year-old Walter Robusto remains in critical condition at Key Burn Center with second and third degree burns. The blaze did an estimated $35,000 damage.
Well, it's 5:10 now, and the suspected heroin kingpin of East Baltimore will get a new trial. A federal appeals court in Richmond reversed the conviction of Maurice Peanut King and 6 co-defendants. In 1983, King was sentenced to 50 years in prison for allegedly heading a $75 million a year drug ring. In a 7-3 vote, the appeals court ruled that U.S. Judge Alexander Harvey committed an error in selecting jury members for the 1983 trial. A new trial date has not yet been set. Some valuable stolen artwork is back home tonight at the Baltimore Museum of Art. About half of the 42-year-old master prints stolen from the museum collection more than 2 years ago have been recovered. The works included one by master artist Rembrandt. The FBI recovered the stolen goods from dealers and art collectors who unknowingly bought them. No arrests have been made in that case so far, though.
Tonight's rush hour means slow moving for commuters on the Baltimore-Washington Parkway. A section of the roadway is still a mess following an accident this afternoon. A cement truck overturned and smashed into a construction steamroller, spilling concrete all over the road. The driver of the cement truck was injured. He was flown to shock trauma, where officials say he's doing well. It's Carroll County's new link to Baltimore, Interstate 795, the Northwest Expressway. The final leg opened late this afternoon, and Channel 2's Jack Bowden has a live report from its first evening rush hour. Jack, many cars on the road?
Not too many, Sally. This is where 795 empties onto Westminster Pike, and as you can see, the traffic is not yet heavy, but it's been steady and moving smoothly. The first part of 795 from the Baltimore Beltway to Owings Mills opened in November of last year. The next segment to Franklin Boulevard opened in July. And this afternoon at 3 o'clock, work crews removed the barriers to the final segment of 795 all the way to Westminster Pike. And motorists who were lined up waiting were delighted.
Very glad to see it. For months now, I've been tied up on Reisterstown Road all the time. Got quite annoying at times.
We just came up from Annapolis just a moment ago, and naturally this cut up, possibly 30 minutes off the trip.
Because the ride on 795 is so much faster than on Reisterstown Road, naturally traffic on Reisterstown Road has decreased significantly. And in Reisterstown, the merchants say the reduced traffic will actually increase their business.
It'll be easier to get across the street. It's difficult to cross the street here sometimes. I mean, I've had complaints from people. They go up to Nettie Penn's.
Phone calls from neighbors reporting suspicious activity prompted police to check out a Randallstown apartment today, and what they found was frightening. shotguns, rifles, handguns, including semi-automatics, and drugs. State police say they've received several calls of illegal activity in the building, so when a maintenance man stumbled on the guns today, police went in for the raid. 3 men are behind bars tonight. Charges are pending. A Philadelphia man is being held without bond on murder charges stemming from last night's grisly discovery at the Fort McHenry Tunnel. 19-year-old Kenneth Tung was arrested when he stopped at the toll booth at the tunnel last night and said he didn't have any money to pay the toll. A search of the car revealed a body in the trunk, the body of 35-year-old Stephen Rosa of Orlando, Florida. Investigators believe Tung may have been a hitchhiker picked up by the victim. Police have not yet established a motive. Baltimore County Police still don't know what provoked an early morning attack at this steak and eggs restaurant in Timonium. Here's what happened. 62-year-old John Quinn of Cockeysville was inside the restaurant when 3 teens entered. Quinn reportedly told the boys he didn't want any trouble, then went out to his car and got a shotgun. He came back in and allegedly shot 18-year-old Robert Politensky of Essex in the chest. Politensky remains in serious condition at shock trauma. Quinn is charged with assault with intent to murder.
Well, one of the men accused of stealing a baby from her grave at a Mount Airy cemetery says he's innocent. 18-year-old Donald Wingo of Gaithersburg is out of jail tonight after putting up $15,000 bail. Wingo says he had nothing to do with the grave destruction and robbery at the Pine Grove Cemetery. Wingo is one of 5 men accused of digging up a baby's grave and throwing the remains along the side of the road. State police say there is evidence the suspects are involved in devil worship. Tonight, a 31-year-old West Baltimore woman is in Springfield State Hospital. Fire investigators believe Cheryl Fenner set her home on fire last night while her children were inside. Neighbors say Ms. Fenner left the burning home last night without her 2 sons. Bystanders helped the boys escape. Fenner's next-door neighbor says it's not the first fire Fenner set at the Ocala Avenue home. Diane Farmer says she set her front lawn on fire last summer.
It got mad with one of the boys. I think it was Tony, the oldest boy, right? And she went in the house and got some lighter fluid and said she was going to burn every damn body up, right? And she took lighter fluid and squirted all over the grass, and she took and struck some paper and just threw it on the lighter fluid.
And then?
Well, to the best of my knowledge, I went over and I got the children, and the fire department, they came and put it out, and the police took her away in the car.
Well, it's all hard to believe, but tonight one of Ms. Fenner's sons is in good condition at Sinai Hospital, where he was treated for smoke inhalation. The other boys in foster care. A fire at an Anne Arundel County high school meant an early start for the weekend for students and staff there. Channel 2's Annapolis Bureau Chief Lou Davis reports the blaze forced an evacuation and early dismissal.
The fire started in a new wing of the high school, an area that has been under construction for more than a year. There were no students in the wing. Apparently, according to Anne Arundel County fire officials, it was a construction accident, and they say that damage was confined to one room, although there may be smoke damage elsewhere. It was quickly brought under control, but of course the high school was evacuated as soon as the fire was discovered. For hundreds of students, it was an early end to classes. Some tests were even canceled. For the students who at first thought it was a fire drill, it turned out to be an adventure.
And like everybody was thought it was just another drill, and I guess that's why we practice these things.
That's what happened. We were out in the hallway doing our play, and we noticed that all the smoke was coming into the hallway, right? So we went out there and we're like, where's all the smoke coming from? And we looked up at the window, and all the smoke was pouring out all a couple windows over there, and we told the teacher. We went to the office.
And I told the teacher. It wasn't much as far as fires go, but for these students it was enough. It at last gave them an early start for the Halloween weekend. At Arundel High School, Lou Davis, Channel 2 News.
Tough day at that school, although it's believed the fire. Next story here. A tip from a citizen that leads to a criminal's arrest can save dozens of people from being victims of future crimes. And that's what Metro Crime Stoppers is all about. A 24-hour hotline for turning criminals into police. We bring you Metro Crime Stoppers every week on Channel 2 News at 5 with photos of suspects. Look at tonight's suspect, Mary Winona Brown. She's wanted in connection with the stabbing murder of John McCullough back in November of 1980. Brown is 36. She weighs about 150 pounds, and she is 5 feet 5 inches tall. Her last known address was in the 1000 block of Argyle. If you have any information about her, call Metro Crime Stoppers 24 hours a day. That's the number, 276-8888. The tip could earn you up to $1,000 in reward money.
Words of good cheer. And if you don't behave yourself, you're likely to get some praise. After her son was grown, she was looking for work and saw another woman cabbie and said,
"So well, there's a job for me. I can drive." And so I went back home and I asked my husband about me getting a job driving a cab. He said, "If you want to, go on." And I did. I called Yellow Cab and they said, yes, they would hire me and to come over. And I went over and I got the job, and I've been there ever since.
As the years wore on, she learned to dearly love her job and the city in which she drove. Retirement age came and went, and still she drove. Like all cab drivers for Yellow Cab, she is tested every 3 months, and she has been accident-free for the past 15 years. She says she's a defensive driver, expecting the unexpected. And she says her age and sex are not a detriment, but actually an asset.
I get good comments because most of especially the senior citizen people like I am, they enjoy riding with a lady because we drive slower than the men. And they appreciate that, and they say we are kind to help them in and out of the cab.
Elizabeth Bowie has not had any problems with robberies or difficult passengers. She says whenever anyone starts to give her a hard time, she says she handles it with prayer.
If they start, acting a little mean with me, I start praying with them. I said, "Come on, let's pull over and pray about it." And they say, "Okay, I'm late. Come on, let's go. I'm all right."
Power of prayer.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, power of prayer.
The many miles she has traveled, the many years she has lived, do not show up in her face or spirit.
Story tonight may sound like it belongs in sports, but it doesn't. It's about a man who cares about youngsters and how they grow up. It's about Dunbar's coach, soon-to-be University of Maryland basketball coach Bob Wade. Today, he led his Poets into an important football game. Channel 2's Andy Barth spent the day with Coach Wade, focusing not on who wins or loses, but how Wade plays the game.
Bob Wade is a hands-on coach, as most high school coaches are of necessity. He won't have his hands on the ankles of his basketball team at College Park, where there's a full-time trainer, but this pregame moment with each player gives him a chance to remind them of fundamentals.
Every time he comes off, hit him.
Wade was interrupted frequently this morning by well-wishers, but his team is 6-0, and a win today meant the playoffs. He got the team in the locker room for some last-minute X's and O's, but he had two messages that had little to do with intricate strategy. The first was to be physical.
And when you hit him, lift him, and drive him. Stand him up every time.
The second message was that it's not easy for him to leave this team.
We got to hang together. It's for all the marbles. We made a promise to each other. And let's not quit until we get there.
They play the game on the field, and Wade had one more chance to charge up his team.
First whistle to the last whistle. Give it all you got. 100%. Tomorrow is not promised to you now. Get it now. 100%, y'all. Don't let anybody take it from you.
At the kickoff, the coach has to let the players go out and fend for themselves. Letting go isn't easy for coaches any more than for the rest of us. It's Bob Wade's first challenge, but not his last. I'm Andy Barth, Channel 2 News.
By the way, the Dunbar Poets lost that game by a score of 20-7. Bob Wade already has a distinguished winning record in high school, and in college coaching, he's undefeated. We'll have the highlights later in sports.
So Dunbar High School finds itself in the national spotlight once again. The day after Coach Wade was selected by the University of Maryland, there were mixed emotions from students and faculty. Channel 2's Brenda Carl reports the gain for Maryland means a loss for Dunbar.
The Poets of Dunbar will miss their coach.
I was sad at first because, I wanted to get on the basketball team and get a chance to work with Mr. Wade, but I'm happy that, he's moving up in the world.
News spread fast about Coach Wade's move from Dunbar to College Park. School let out early yesterday due to paint fumes in the building, and not everyone heard about the coach's promotion. A move that Principal L.Z. Gladden anticipated as long ago as June 19th, the day Len Bias died. He says he knew then that Coach Lefty Drizel would be out.
You may wonder whether I'm happy or whether I'm sad. Well, I'm both. I have mixed feelings because I'm sad because there are a number of young people here at the school who miss Bob and will miss him very much.
Coach Wade's trophy-lined office was surrounded by students today to wish him success, but the coach was not available this morning. A reporter from the New York Times wanted to hear his story.
Really sorry to see him go as a friend and for the accomplishment that he has developed at Dunbar High School.
But whatever his endeavors are for the University of Maryland, I'm quite sure that he will be successful.
I cried because, you know, looking at the football team, how sad they was, I was sad for them, not only for them, but I was happy for them too.
I'm sad because Bob is leaving, but I'm proud because Bob is a Dunbar graduate.
It's a sad day for Dunbar, but best wishes to the coach who helped make them great. At Dunbar Senior High School, I'm Brenda Carl, Channel 2 News.
So Dunbar will miss Coach Wade, but everyone wishes him well.